Yo, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Your friendly neighborhood host, Mr. Andre Harrison, with you for another Google Hangout. I promised I would do one between now and Tuesday. I've kind of been a bit neglectful on this in recent times, so I thought, hey, why not do one right now? So what's up, everybody? Henry Chapman's here. Hey, man, what's happening? Dr. B, nice to see you, sir. Nora's here. I have plenty of drinks. I will actually try a grape-flavored Snapple for the first time live on this podcast. Well, not really a podcast, but you get the gist. Evening, Owen. Nice to see you. RJ is here. 1/3 of the Motorsport 101 podcast. Oh, you know, you've got 2/3 with us on here. So let me know how you guys are doing. Joe Mac, nice to see you, Joe. Hi, Firecrest, nice to see you. Hope you guys are having a lovely Sunday evening. It's been a pretty good weekend off. Can't lie. I'm not used to having weekends off because, like, you know, in my job, like, you have to work at least one day on the weekend normally. So the only way I would get a weekend off is if I had an actual designated week off holiday. So it's actually quite nice, you know, having a 4-day week and then, you know, working the weekend off. It's pretty nice. Snapper man, you're going to get the Marco jersey for IndyCar. I don't have a Marco jersey, my man. I wish I did, but it's one of those things. Yeah, weather's pretty nice as well, no? Can't lie to you. It is nice out there. Few clouds out there, but still pretty sticky. It's humid. I wouldn't exactly necessarily say it's hot. It's just it's humid more than anything else. And to be fair, the fact I'm wearing nylon probably doesn't help, but it is what it is. So, you know, talk to me about some stuff. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me know how you feel about the Grand Prix, about Iowa coming up at 10 o'clock tonight in UK time for the Iowa Corn 300. That's over in IndyCar. Motorsport this weekend. A ton of it, from what I've been told. Global Rallycross as well, all that good shit. To be fair, most of that is buildings and air pollution. Also, you're quite right. London is always humid and sticky as all hell because of just shitty air pollution. 26 degrees in Southall right now. Not bad. But, yeah, I hope you guys are having a good one. More Truex domination, lol. I'm still like, I just got distracted by Twitter for it. There's like still a big argument towards two people I know regarding more of the Baku coverage. Sky didn't exactly cover themselves in glory this weekend. Not like I wasn't even all that mad about them talking about Baku because it was their first race back since Baku. A lot of shit has happened since then, so of course they're going to talk about it. But taking like over half their pre-race coverage towards that one segment, getting more opinions on it, like, and then I actually was more annoyed by Saturday when they tried to make out like Hamilton and Vettel didn't shake hands after qualifying when they actually did off camera. And then they said, like, Sky was like, oh, wait, like they did shake hands before we got to the actual Valsecchi interview. And then, oh, but here's the video of them snubbing it anyway. Really? Like, that's just irresponsible journalism at that point. It's like, what are you trying to do? It's really annoying. But it is what it is. Like, it's Sky. It's what Sky does, you know. It's like I've always said it. Sky are always thinking of the lowest common denominator, and this was a Hamilton-related incident. If this was between Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon, this would never have happened. Even if it was like Fernando Alonso and someone fairly popular like Daniel Ricciardo, it wouldn't have been on this level. The fact it was Hamilton and Vettel, the two biggest names in the sport, is the reason why it was oversaturated, because Sky are the Hamilton network. And, you know, it's one of those things, I suppose. Hi, Len. Nice to see you, man. But I'll get some questions in a minute, but I saw your chat with Fran there, Len. Fran's a former friend of mine. We've had many an argument over things like that, if I'm being honest with you. But here's what I'll say in response to that. I get that Sky have to appeal to casual fans because they have two big characters in there in Hamilton and Vettel. My counterpoint to that is that no casual fan is watching Sky Sports F1 coverage. Because the big appeal of watching on Sky Sports is the fact it's in 4K. Now, how many people have a 4K TV and how many people have a Sky Q box or an HD box that can play it? And then how many people are paying 30 quid a month for Sky and then paying another, I think it's an extra tenner a month for the HD channels on top of that? Because an average Sky Sports package doesn't include Sky Sports F1. You have to have Sky Sports, and I think you have to have the HD pack as well. You have to get the whole shebang pretty much to watch Sky Sports F1. So I'd argue like you would get just as much coverage watching Sky Sports News, which you get for free anyway. So I would make the argument that casual viewers aren't watching that live coverage. That's... You know, it's not so much that it's the fact that they're British. It's more just the fact that it's the Hamilton network. Like, it's the Hamilton network. It's Sky Sports F1 is based in the UK, and there's no other British driver that's worth a damn. Like, no one's talking about Jolyon Palmer. Actually had a pretty good day, finishing 11th after all. But yeah. No, I agree, Black Inferno. I do actually think the Hamilton shit was worse in 2006 when he was in GP2 and ITV kept bringing him on the main coverage to talk to him every 2 seconds. Like, if you think this was bad, like, ITV in 2007 was way, way worse than this. The difference is we didn't have social media really back then. Like, because it's social media and because it's more instant gratification, of course we're going to talk about it more because it's all on the internet. It's all available. All the video clips right here, right now. Here's the reaction. You can say what you want. You can be instantaneous because that's what the internet gives you the power to do. In 2007, we didn't have that. Like, Facebook was just coming into its own. People still have fucking MySpace and Bebo pages. Like, we didn't have that in 07. But if you ever go back and watch 07 and 08's coverage, the last 2 years ITV had F1. It's actually probably worse than anything Sky Sports have done. Which is, you know, it is what it is, like I said. But you know, debates, and you know, I don't. See, that's the thing. I've been criticised before for saying that I can't talk about Sky because I don't pay for it. I actually did. I was a Sky paying customer. I cancelled my Sky Sports subscription because it didn't come with F1 originally. I didn't want. I paid the extra for F1 HD for a little bit. I just realized it wasn't worth the money, so I cut it. So I was a paying customer at one point, but again, it is what it is. Let me see you guys in the chats, comments real quick. Corn, everybody. Glory to Corn and all that. Hi, Total Gamer. Hi, Zoe. Nice to see you. Oh, God, Eddie Jordan impressions. Fuck me. I wonder why Cook isn't on it yet. Still cleaning the walls because of all the jizz he's got on it. Oh, dear. Yeah, casual viewers are watching Channel 4 regardless of whether it's live or not. That's going drastically down once the exclusivity... Yeah, absolutely. Once Sky get the exclusivity agreements at the end of 2018, it's going to be a lot different. Like, if you guys are really going to want to watch F1, you will have to pay. Either that or you're going to be streaming on the internet because that's what that's what's happening right now. That's modern day sports where, you know, if you can't afford it, sod it. Just fire up an internet stream. If you're willing to watch on 360p on a slow internet connection about 30 seconds behind the real game, then you'll do it. Like, casual viewers are not dropping this sort of money to watch Sky Sports F1 unless they have more money than sense. It's the same deal. Yeah, I'll give you an easy example. MotoGP. MotoGP used to be on BBC Two. I'm sure some of you guys here will remember that. BBC Two used to air MotoGP live, and they were getting over 1 million viewers per race. It's gone to BT Sport, and now it's getting less than 200,000 viewers a race. Because it will drive out a lot of the casual fans. Because who's going to pay for a Skybox, again, about 20, 25 quid a month, and then pay another 22 for BT Sports just for MotoGP? It's a big ask. And, you know, you're basically saying, do you want to pay 50 quid a month, or the best part, 50 quid a month, to watch MotoGP in 4K? Or, you know, on live TV with BT Sports, pretty meh coverage sometimes. Now, you know, it is what it is, again, when that's concerned, but it's the same deal. It's like, with MotoGP, it's more in the case of, you know, they'll have the video pass, which, by the way, if you're not a MotoGP fan, MotoGP are offering their video pass on a free trial until August the 8th. So if you've not been watching this season, you haven't got an excuse, because this season has been fantastic. Go check it out. I particularly recommend Assen. Definitely want to keep an eye on. Hassan Lancer, understandable. America's team and the closest thing to America's driver we're getting in a post-Rossi economy. Very true, RJ. In before Lewis retires after 2018 and Sky have no one to talk about. Now, that's the thing. That would actually legitimately be interesting, because what would happen for Sky F1 if Hamilton was no longer in the sport? What would they spend their pre-race coverage doing? How would the dynamic be different? How would they paint the story? Because Lewis Hamilton, like, okay, he's the biggest name in Formula One maybe ever. He's certainly the biggest in this social media era. He's certainly, like, the most charismatic of the top guys, the brand guy, the guy that stands out, the guy that goes the extra mile to appeal to fans in this era, whereas, like, Valentino Rossi was more like the Bjorn Borg, the more quiet guy, the more I'm going to put myself in the private. Like, you can't paint this same story with Valtteri Bottas and then Sebastian Vettel, because those guys keep themselves to themselves a lot of the time. They're not big, outgoing sort of dudes. Fernando Alonso's not been relevant in over a decade in F1. Well, I wouldn't say not relevant, but I'd say he hasn't had a chance at a title in 5 years now. So where would you go from there? Like, that would be difficult, to say the least. It says, at least, that's the thing. It's like Andrew Manister saying straight up, like, at least BT Sport openly admit that they're biased towards the Brits. True. Honestly, I'd rather they be honest about it. Like, if anybody ever watches BT Sports MotoGP coverage, Keith Ewan commentates with his trousers wrapped around his ankles whenever John McPhee's in the top 15 of a race in Moto3. Or whenever Bradley Smith does well. Or any Brit like Crutchlow. Or, you know, in Moto2 and 3, Danny Kent, when he won, like, Britain's first world title in Grand Prix racing since Barry Sheen. And that was like 30 plus years ago. Like, Ewan basically starts gesticulating over any British rider and Valentino Rossi, because Valentino Rossi is the god of MotoGP as we know it, basically. You know, at least they're honest about it. Like, now, I'm not one of those guys that complains about nationalism and bias all that much, because, like, the excuse that people come out with that, oh, well, if you watch the Italian coverage, they'd be biased towards the Italians. And I'm like, that doesn't mean it doesn't compromise the quality of the product you're watching. Just because they show a bit more national pride and a bit more investment in their product doesn't necessarily mean it's for the best. Okay, just because Sky are British and they're going to focus on Lewis Hamilton doesn't necessarily mean that they get a pass if their product isn't that great. It doesn't. Like, if some of the coverage, if I think they're over-egging the pudding on Lewis Hamilton, I'm going to call them out on it. It doesn't, like, just because he's their home driver and their best home driver doesn't mean they get a pass. I just think that's annoying. But Yeah, again, like I said, that's just the way these TV channels play because, like, again, like these channels, Sky realized the lowest common denominator is Lewis Hamilton, and it's going to be Lewis Hamilton fans because he's the biggest star and we're in the United Kingdom. That's not a bad way to go to get ratings. That probably is how a TV network and how a TV producer would think. How am I going to attract viewers to this product? Because again, Vettel is not really an investable sort of dude. Even though he's really good, he's not going to appeal to casual guys because he keeps himself to himself. Same with Valtteri Bottas. Daniel Ricciardo, maybe, but Ricciardo is not relevant because he's not on that top. He's never really been a title contender, not on that level. Not since even after he's joined Red Bull, the closest he's come was third. Like he's not challenging for a championship, so he's always going to play second fiddle to an LH, a VB, an SV, even Fernando Alonso. So again. I get it. Doesn't necessarily mean they deserve a pass for it, but yes. God, I remember Hungary 2006, Dr. B. James Allen completely busting his nut over Jenson Button. Not that I blame him. Oh God, Julian Palmer. God. Give it time. Sky will eventually go towards Lando Norris or George Russell. Yeah, absolutely. They'll definitely elevate Jolyon Palmer if he's still around next year, especially if Renault as a team get better and they keep him around. That's a lot of ifs, but Renault is a factory team and they're never out of the top for very long. They always find a way to get back up there in the end. So, hey, Jolyon Palmer's like next man up or potentially could be next man up. Yeah, Charles Leclerc is really good. You don't need me to tell you that. Great point from Andrew. It says it's like as soon as Sky found out Ham had a grid penalty, they were talking about Webber's comment saying they should get rid of penalties for mechanical problems. I completely agreeing with him. Well, of course, because they don't want to see their top tier drivers further down the grid for stuff that wasn't their fault. It's as simple as that. Because Lewis Hamilton isn't as fun a sell when he's starting a Grand Prix in 8th compared to when he's starting it on the front row. That's one thing. And my response to that would be, if you're saying you should scrap mechanical penalties for drivers based on mechanical gremlins, you veto the right to complain about the sport's spiraling costs. Because it wasn't that long ago in Formula One that guys were going through one engine a practice session. Like, oh, this engine doesn't work. Let's get a new engine in there. I remember growing up in the early 2000s or the Schumacher era or just before that, where they would have one engine for practice, they'd have one engine for qualifying, and they'd have one engine again for the race. Like, teams would go through 50 or 60 engines a season. That can't happen now in this power unit era, and the FIA has wanted to try and cut down costs. That's the reason why they have these tight rules, because they're trying to encourage teams to make more reliable parts, make parts more valuable, and try and cut the costs down so you can run it as little as possible for an entire season. It saves money in the long run. And every issue you can think of with Formula One as a sport ties back to money. If teams are spending too much, it will hurt the sport in every capacity. Period. So, if you're saying, oh, okay, scrap penalties for mechanical problems and find the teams instead, like, finding teams for using new parts would be a drop in the bucket to them. Like, this is coming from a top team like Mercedes, who lost £78 million last year as a team, as in terms of running costs, but the marketing value they reckon was worth $2 billion by being Formula One world champion. So fines ain't going to do shit to these big factories. And that, if anything, that will hurt the smaller teams more, because a direct fine will hurt their pockets a lot more than it would hurt a Ferrari, a Red Bull, or a Mercedes. So you can't really have that either way. You can't just do that. Like, sure, the engines are a lot more expensive than they are, obviously, now than they were back then. But F1 is always geared more towards reliability. Why wouldn't you? Reliability will win you championships. Like I've said it before, Michael Schumacher was pretty much gifted at least 2 world titles because Ferrari had the most reliable car, even if it wasn't necessarily the fastest. So, like, why would you not want your parts to be reliable? Why wouldn't you want to use less? So, you know, like, it's like, we get it. Like, in Formula One, we care more about drivers than we do teams, and that's understandable. I mean, we are human beings. We will always be more compelled by human stories. But on the flip side of that, like, if you're saying that, drivers shouldn't be punished, the driver needs the team to perform so the driver can perform to the best. It goes hand in hand. You can't have a brilliant driver in a shit car, and you can't have a brilliant car with a shit driver. You need both to win. And that's the whole point. Like, so, yeah, like, that would be a good idea, Zoe. If it make it constructors' points. Now that would make it more interesting. Yeah, take care, RJ. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a chance that Valtteri can keep up with Lewis. I mean, we've gone through, 9 races now, I think, 8 or 9, and Val's only 15 points behind his teammate. And you're like, Bottas had just as big a DNF in Spain as anything Lewis Hamilton so far this season. So, for me, like, Bottas has been he's been the guy that's made the best of the bad situations better than Lewis has this season. Like, he hasn't got, obviously, the ultimate pace that Lewis Hamilton has, but Bottas has not made very many mistakes at all. The races he has been affected in, have been minimal, apart from Spain, and he's made the best of what he's been given. 2 wins definitely helps as well. He's probably got 3 or 4 more in him this season, the way it's playing out, and he's only 15 behind his teammate. I think Bottas is doing a great job. He's done more than enough to justify another year in that Mercs car for me. And if he keeps this going, why can't he be a title threat? He's only 35 off the top. He hasn't quite got the consistency that Vettel has had so far this season, but so I'm absolutely here for it. Sky summons the insane fans to climb the podium and eat Vettel alive. If Vettel wins, oh geez. If Vettel wins at Silverstone, I shudder to think what could happen. But yeah, I think Joe's right. I think Joe's got a very good point. These are 2 big races coming up for Lewis. He's got his home roundup next weekend. He's got the British Grand Prix, and that is going to be a big deal. I mean, Hamilton has to win at home, surely. He can't afford to give up more points to Seb. If Seb wins that one and he puts himself a race in front again, like, Lewis is going to have some work to do. Like, seriously, because Seb's not really put much wrong so far this season. Okay, that was only a second, another very close race with him and Val. But he's not finished a race off the top 4 this season. Like, he's not giving his opponents very much room to breathe. Lewis needs a big Silverstone. He needs to win, and preferably get Seb out of the top 2. He needs Bottas to be held. Like, ideally, Bottas should be holding Seb up a bit more and blocking him off from points. The problem with that is that Valtteri is a title contender in his own right. Like, he's clearly better than the number 2 that so many people thought that Val was going to be. He's clearly better than that. He's a guy that can probably win the title on his own merit if the right chips fall his way, especially given that he out-qualified Lewis and he out-raced Lewis this weekend. Like, okay, Lewis got pretty close in the end to Ricciardo for a podium spot, but Bottas controlled the race as good as anybody out there in Formula One can today. He did it in Russia, and he held off the pressure again at the end to beat Vettel over the line. And, that's a good sign. He can win races on his own merit. It's not just a matter of Lewis having a bad day. Like, even without the grid penalty, Lewis, starts the race in 3rd. And it's hard for one Mercs to beat the other when they both have a clean race. It could be another 07. Absolutely, it could be Seb on one team versus the other two guys in silver. Val has more podiums than anyone else on the grid with Ricciardo 6, but he doesn't have the upside that Vettel has, Dr. B. Seb's got 3 wins and not finished up the top 4 this season. That's what it is. And yeah, that was an engine failure that cost Bottas in Spain. That would have cost him probably 16 points because he was running in third that day. I'm surprised Lewis didn't ask us. Oh yeah, can we back Valtteri up so that we can help try and get Lewis past Ricciardo? Wouldn't have surprised me at this point. But yeah, I mean, we already saw it. I mean, Hamilton clearly doesn't respect Bottas as much as people say he does if he's already telling Bottas to back up so he can help his race out. And Merckx is like, no, why would we do that? Like, why would we compromise one guy's spot so you can move up one spot? Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. But Mercs are not doing the whole team orders thing. So, well, at least not yet. Anyway. Right then. Let me try this new grape-aged Snapple I have in my fridge. I got this off Amazon Prime yesterday. 12 quid for 6 bottles. Let's see if this turns out all right. Cheers. Probably needs to be a bit colder. My fridge isn't all that great right now. That's pretty nice. Not bad. Not bad for 190 calories in a bottle as well. I'll take it. Good stuff. Going back to the chat real quick. I do remember that in Singapore 2016. They actually compromised Rosberg so they could try and get Hamilton past Raikkonen and very nearly cost themselves the win. So, yeah, Post-drink review. I like grape more than blackcurrant, Zoe. Sorry. Grape is delicious. Hi, Luke. Very true, Evan, in the sense that, Romain Grosjean basically won the Best of the Rest award with a 6th place finish. Has his best result of the year so far. I do feel really bad for Kevin Magnussen, though. Magnussen looked really quick all weekend long, and then he had the suspension failure in quali and then an engine failure in the race. Like, K-Mag looked as good as he ever has in F1 right that weekend, and he has nothing to show for it. That's kind of a bummer for him because I think K-Mag did really well. But, hey, good job for Grosjean. A really nice result to finish in 6th place. DRS robbed Romain. Very true. Yeah, the Carlos Sainz one was interesting. We'll talk about that on the podcast later this week. Next week, I should say. But I didn't like the coverage that, that Carlos Sainz got. He was misquoted by Martin Brundle, which certainly didn't help. But what was wrong with Carlos Sainz saying that my aim was to drive for the factory team next year? Like, why is that a problem? Like, why can't a guy have ambition? Okay, he also said that he doesn't think he'll be driving for Toro Rosso next year. And it's clear that, like, in the paddock want him. Like, that's obvious that other teams are interested. Like, I know Renault's been sniffing around, and you know, there's been teams that have been eyeing it up, but like, there is no reason why Carlos Sainz can't be thinking factory ride. Look at the example. They frigging dumped and ruined Daniil Kvyat's career just to put Max Verstappen in the big boy seat. Now, I'm not saying that was a wrong decision, because clearly it's worked out great for Max since then. But after seeing that and seeing your teammate change, especially a guy that took pretty much all the credit at Toro Rosso when Carlos Sainz was so unlucky. I mean, that first season he had in F1 with Toro Rosso, he had 7 mechanical retirements. 7! Of course Max was going to look good. Carlos Sainz wasn't the sexy pick. Carlos Sainz had all the bad luck. So, of course, it was going to make Max look good. So, after seeing the projectile career of Max Verstappen since then, why wouldn't you start thinking, oh, yeah, I can maybe win, I can maybe get to the top tier seat next year? Because you know what? I don't get, like, why does Red Bull just not open their eyes and realize that your team, you've invested in too many young guys? You can't please everybody. Like, Daniel Ricciardo is now your senior figure, and he's 28 now. He's 28, and now he's holding up the conveyor belt. But the problem is that you can't dump Ricciardo, because Ricciardo is a top 3 driver. Like, top 3 or 4 at worst. But, like, you've got Ricciardo, you've invested all this into Max, and Max isn't going to go anywhere anytime soon unless the car continues to shit the bed like this. I mean, having 5 DNFs in your last 7 races doesn't help. But, like, you've invested, you've made Max, like, your next golden boy on top of that. So what is the point of bringing in 2 young guys at once if you're going to just curb one of them? Carlos Sainz has been fantastic for Toro Rosso ever since he joined them. He's not gotten the credit he's deserved until maybe the second half of last year. Like, he should be in a Red Bull seat. He should be in a top 4 or 5 car. He's clearly good enough for it. But Red Bull's now made their bed, and they're going to have to lay in it now. They have a win now team. They have Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen. And as Christian Horner himself said, that he reckons is Red Bull's best ever team. Best team Red Bull has ever had to have Ricciardo and Verstappen together like this. So hey, you've made your bed. Now you've got to sacrifice Kvyat and Sainz to make this work, which is a shame because Carlos Sainz is clearly like a top. Like, Red Bull have 3 of the 8 best drivers in Formula One, and that's crazy. But the problem is that one's going to miss out. Like, I don't see any reason why Carlos Sainz couldn't be any bit as good as Max Verstappen in the same car. That's my opinion anyway. And my thoughts on Verstappen leaving, it's only piked up now because he's had bad luck with retirements and whatnot. I don't like, if this is the way that Red Bull is talking about Carlos Sainz, like, could you imagine Max Verstappen trying to leave that team? Like, they're going to protect their golden boy because that's their prize investment. They knew they had to pretty much wrestle him out of the hands of Mercedes that were also going to bring him in. The difference was they could offer Max an immediate seat, something Mercedes just couldn't do. So if they're getting this pissy over Carlos Sainz, like, how protective are they going to be over Max Verstappen? Because I think it was Yost that basically got him that top-tier seat in the first place. Not to mention, Yost is on the payroll now. Yost is Red Bull's talent scout. So it's not going to be as easy to get Verstappen out of that team as people think. Because they've done everything to keep him sweet. Giving him the Red Bull seat, you know, giving him all the credit over Daniel Ricciardo. And even more so, they've even put his dad on the payroll now. Dad's getting those Austrian checks. So right now, why would Verstappen leave? Like, unless Jos Verstappen is going to, you know, play fiddle and, you know, try and drum up interest from other teams to, you know, keep the door open to say, oh yeah, you know, if Ferrari come around. I mean, if we're seeing it in football right now, with people like Raiola and you know, Mendes that are going at these super agents, basically trying to conspire their players to go to other clubs so they can get these big agent fees and signing on bonuses. Like, why can't it happen in F1 where Jos can go around and say, yeah, we'll take your calls. We'll be interested. Call us. Mm. Yeah, I mean, good to see both Williams getting the points as well. I mean, a lot of it came from the lap one incident that they were able to get out of trouble. But hey, you know, given how much they struggled in qualifying, I think they'll gladly take both cars in the points. Well done to Lance as well for getting his car in the points again. I voted Stroll driver of the day for that reason alone. Like, Felipe Massa making big comebacks shouldn't be a surprise to anyone anymore, because how much of the fucking internet loves Felipe Massa after all? Check out my Twitter real quick. Spreading the word out on the Facebooks and the Twitters. Sweet. Ah, nice. Get in from work and Channel 4 F1 highlights are on. Nice. Shout out to Channel 4, the better F1 broadcaster in this country. Oh dear. I'm getting all the Channel 4 tweets now because they've started their race coverage. What are the odds that Red Bull could challenge for genuine wins at some point in this season? Unlikely. There's probably just too many good cars in front of them. I mean, Baku was like... It's amazing that Daniel Ricciardo has won 5 career Grand Prix now, and all of them have come as a direct result of shenanigans. Like, I don't think Ricciardo's won a single race on merit outside of maybe Hungary in 2014. That's about as close as it got. And that was partly down to a jammy safety car. But I don't like Red Bull don't do genuine wins anymore. That's the thing about it. It's like they always pick up the scraps when somebody else goes down. They're very good at playing scrappy, Red Bull. Let's put it that way. The one chance they had at a genuine win came and went last year at Monaco. So, I don't know. I think they've still got like a good 3 or 4 attempts to find to really get themselves involved in the mix. But even then, Ferrari and Merckx will keep pushing those goalposts out further because that's what they do. So, I'm not confident on Red Bull where that's concerned. And again, as JPS says as well, like it's for me at least, they need Renault to do better. Renault's got to develop a better power unit, and like the team, it's a power sport now. It's an engine sport. It's an engine formula. If Renault keeps struggling, then there's not much anybody can really do about that. Unfortunately, it is again. It's just like Red Bull will be the first to tell you they think their car is amazing, but at the same time, they'll also be the next person to tell you that you know, they don't like Renault's engines, but the thing is, nobody else is going to give them a good engine. Why would they? It would put their own team's performances at risk. So, you know, they got work to do. Let me know how you guys are doing. Send in some questions if you like. I am a bit bored tonight, to be honest with you. Not much going on with me. It can be about anything, by the way. So you know me, I'm an open book. How soft are those freaking purple tires that they can handle? Yeah. Honestly, like that was really annoying. Like, 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, like Hamilton was able to do like almost 40 laps on the ultra soft tire, was the fastest man on the track in the end of the race, and nearly got on the podium. What good is it in a Formula One race if the softest tires you bring to a weekend can go more than half race distance? It just kills any idea of strategy. It just doesn't work. So, like, Pirelli have not made these tires soft enough. They have to be more aggressive about this. Ideally, I think a Formula One race works best when you can get a race that has 2 to 3 stops. If you can deliberate between 2 stoppers and 3 stoppers, you could have an interesting race. 1-stop races don't work. Lewis Hamilton had to switch from a 2 to a 1 and was able to make it work very easily because the 2-stopper just wasn't viable. So, you know, 1-stoppers tend to be boring, and this was no exception. New United shirt's pretty nice. Got Martial on the back as well. Don't you can see it from here. They're pretty comfy. I'm not the biggest fan of this little polo style get up out here. It's a little bit sticky on the neck, but overall, it's not bad. I quite like it. Good 8 out of 10. I like the color. I like the stripes on the side. Overall, I think it's pretty neat. I quite like it. I've already got my away kit on the wall. We've probably already seen the Mkhitaryan one up there as it is. But I managed to extend my wall up to 4 because I've got my new bed coming in tomorrow. I've been sleeping on this, my mattress, on the floor for the last 5 days. But been able to make it work where that's concerned. Actually, it's a very good mattress. It's actually been very comfortable to sleep in, believe it or not. Like, my anger quite dissipated quite quickly on Tuesday when I found out, oh yeah, this is actually really comfy. Shit. Kuba saying, this is a repeat, but what do you think about Hamilton seemingly holding a grudge against Vettel? He was taking shots at him. I'm not reading too much into this. Like, Hamilton is a lot of things. I don't think he holds a grudge. He shook hands with Lewis. He shook hands with Seb after qualifying. He was a little bit sassy on the Thursday press conference where he said, I don't feel like he regretted anything. And he's willing to let bygones be bygones, and I think that should be the end of the matter. I don't think Hamilton's got a grudge against Seb. But I just think he's also the sort of person that says these great, big, bold statements and doesn't back them up afterwards. He likes to walk shit back. And, you know, calling Sebastian a disgrace and saying his penalty wasn't harsh enough was no matter which way you slice it. So I think that's just Lewis being Lewis. Yeah, talking about Yeah, talking about Raikkonen, I have a very bad feeling Raikkonen is going to cost Ferrari the Constructors' Championship. I really do. Like, Mercs have got two more consistent, solid drivers than Ferrari that has one. Raikkonen is constantly finishing the back out of those big four, and he was beaten again by Ricciardo this race. Convincingly beaten by Daniel Ricciardo in a car that on paper is one, a lot worse, and two, one that Sebastian Vettel is way down the road in, challenging for wins. Ferrari blatantly need a better number two driver. The problem is that where are they going to get one from? And especially with guys like Carlos Sainz under contract, it's a problem. So, you know, Raikkonen's a letdown. Raikkonen finished 20 seconds behind Sebastian Vettel today. Best part of 20 seconds. It's a pain in the arse. It's not good enough on any level from Raikkonen. All these fourth places, he has to start beating Valtteri more consistency, and he's just not doing that right now, and that's going to bring the whole team down. Vettel's carrying the team. Get Leclerc, get Giovinazzi up in there. See, this is the thing. I would normally totally agree with those things. The problem is that I think that Ferrari are pretty conservative when it driver changes. It's like big teams don't gamble on young talent anymore. Verstappen was an exception because Red Bull only promote from within their own most of the time anyway. Like Merckx, they could have taken Pascal Wehrlein or put Esteban Ocon in there. They put Val, who was in there, who was a solid name, experience, you know, the best part of 100 Grand Prix already. So they were always going to pick him. That's how it was always going to be. I would love to see Antonio Giovinazzi drive for Ferrari. I think he's a great talent and a guy that's only going to learn and get better. But he wasn't actually all that good when he was in F1. Like, okay, Australia was great, finished 12th. China, he was terrible. Like, do you want that to happen in your factory car? It's an entirely different ballgame, and it's probably just too big a risk for Ferrari to take. The problem is that, like, Raikkonen is a known quantity, but he's also a bad known quantity because he's not good enough to beat Hamilton or Valtteri over a weekend most of the time. And that's the problem. Raikkonen isn't good enough to get Ferrari what they really want, which is a Constructors' Championship. They have to be thinking bigger. Maybe Grosjean. Grosjean could be a good experienced name in the short to medium term that could fill the gap in there. And, you know, he's a good baseline guy. If the car is good, Romain Grosjean is also pretty good. When the car is bad, we all know about it because Grosjean complains on the radio a lot of the time. But Grosjean's a good driver. He's a little bit on the older side. He's 31, but even so, I think he'd be a better shot than Kimi Räikkönen at this point. Whoa. I had to about my drink now. Oh, jeez. Whew. Yeah. God, Kimi is 38. Doesn't help. The wheels have probably fallen off for Kimi in terms of ability. I mean, he's going to be fucking, what, 40 next year? How long can we expect Raikkonen to keep this up? He's old. Lewis Hamilton's 32. Like, Sebastian Vettel just turned 30 this week. Like, there's not a lot you can really do about that, unfortunately. So yeah, it's not ideal to say the least, but not much you can do about that, really. God, I feel when they say, oh yeah, he's been in F1 for 16 years now. God, fucking damn it, Jesus. Hey, let me know. Let me know how you guys feel in the chat. Miss Montoya. Send me your questions, as always. I'm probably going to go until 7 o'clock to want to get my dinner in. And I'm setting up for IndyCar at 10 o'clock tonight at Iowa, so that should be fun. Ugh. Sergio Perez is not a bad shout. The question is that how long do you want Sergio Perez in there when you've got a young academy that's also knocking on the door, and the fact that Perez is still pretty young at like 26? You could have a very similar problem to what Red Bull's going through right now. Like, actually, yeah, Perez is Perez is 27. He turned 27 in January, but yeah, like, I'm not sure if you'd want another upper 20 sort of guy in there in case, because like, what are you going to do with Giovinazzi and Leclerc? Have another pretty good driver in there in his late 20s or so. Like, you're basically backing up the train at that point. And that could be a problem in itself. So I'm not sure if you want to go somewhere in between, like with him. Not really been watching the Tour de France. Sorry, Richard. Mid-season review, maybe. Good chance of that, Cuba. I'm liking the classic cars, Firecrest, but I would also like to see more information about what improvements they've made to the current cars and to the game in general. There's not been a lot of information about the game itself, and we're about 6 weeks away from release. This is when you should be starting to ramp up the information. This is when you should start telling people more about the game and what's coming. Get people excited. Unfortunately, the classic car seems to be doing that on its own, which I guess is a nice bonus. I mean, some of the cars for it are fantastic, like having Alonso's 2006 Renault, the 2004 Ferrari, the 2007 Ferrari, the 2010 Red Bull RB7. Great selections to have a cars from the V10s, the V8s, and of course, obviously the modern day V6s. But I'd like to see more about the game itself. But I would also say the handling model, the beta, I don't want to talk about. I can't talk about it too much because I'm going to respect what Codemasters say. In that you're only meant to talk about the beta on Codemasters forum, but I have enjoyed playing the beta so far. That's all I will really say on that. I was actually quite annoyed the other day that TRL Limitless put out a video directly as a message to Codemasters talking about the beta, even though the email said talk about the beta to the online forum. So you're directly profiting off breaking the rules of a privilege to be able to beta test a game, and yet you're putting content out there and profiting and making money on that content and getting more subscribers and hype towards yourself as a channel by bending the rules of the beta. It's because you think you'd be an altruistic and sending a message to Codies. Like, they could have sent the same video and put it in the forum and made it a private video. That could have worked, but you're like, no, let's make it public. Let's make everybody see this. So I thought that was some bullshit. But yeah, I'm gonna be respectful to the privilege that Cody's has given me, and I'm not gonna talk about the beta on here too much. But I will openly admit that annoyed the fuck out of me, because it's like, well, why is it one set of rules for this guy who's an F1 YouTuber who's tested the game before, and it's one set of rules for everybody else? That's just not fair, in my opinion. If I wanted to, I could have put out half a dozen videos talking about this fucking beta, and that can't happen. So, because if I did, they'd be flagged up, but it's whatever. Nothing says F1 game have like 9 different breakdown videos on YouTube. Yeah, the usual. It's just so bland. Why would anybody watch 4 people saying the exact same thing about the information in the game? And like, I can speculate for myself. I don't need somebody else to do that for me. Like, I have a brain. Like, it can go to places. I don't need someone else to tell me that for me. But again, it's the F1 community. They'll look for any excuse to put F1 2017 news, F1 2017 preview, F1 2017 beta, etc. Gear in big capital letters with a misleading thumbnail, because that's what YouTube is now. It's all about misdirection. And it's all about misdirection and getting people to watch for long periods of time. Like, I'm subscribed to a bunch of FIFA dudes that do the exact same shit. Like in the Pen Fairs. I used to be subbed in the Pen Fairs. I used to be subbed to AI9 Skills. Like, their thumbnails are the fucking worst. It's like, it's all just, you know, misleading shit to a large degree, with their ugly face superimposed taking up half the shot. It's the same deal in F1 now. It's all about misdirection, misleading people, subtly doing little tricks to get yourself views. I'm kind of glad I've gotten out of that space, because it's just toxic to me. I think it's terrible, personally. I mean, I respect their work and I respect the effort that goes into it, but I think the fact that it takes those sorts of tricks to be a prominent YouTuber just annoys the shit out of me. F1 Fan 98. Who is your favorite and least favorite F1 community guy? I don't really like. Least favorite probably Mickey Motions. Me and him have had falling outs on many occasions. Favorite probably Arav. Arav has always raised the bar for content in the F1 space. I think he should genuinely have 500,000 subs compared to what he's got. I think he's a tremendous video maker, a great commentator. I think he works harder than anybody else in this sport, and I think he's the most dedicated member of his craft to be able to. Some of the F1 My Driver seasons and the videos he produces for that are fantastic, and the effort that goes into them are amazing. Like, they're works of art, and they just, like, that is an example of taking the limitations of a game and enhancing it to make it a greater spectacle for everybody involved. I think that for me is what content creation is all about, as opposed to reaction videos and doing the exact same career mode every 2 fucking seconds. And, you know, it's just the same generic, repetitive, monotonous content every single year. I'm glad people like Arav are trying to, you know, enhance the quality of a video game to make it a more presentable media format for everybody. Like, next new world champion, probably Daniel Ricciardo or Max Verstappen. Probably Max, because of Max's age. For chalk and cheese. Yeah, like, I completely agree, Nor. Like, the F1 and FIFA communities are a lot similar than some of the people in their space give them credit for. Definitely. Like, every FIFA YouTuber is pretty much the same. I subscribe for their personalities more than their content, because I sub to AA9 Skills because he seems like a nice guy and he's a legitimate esports level player, but he isn't an esports level player, if you get what I mean. He hasn't got that pro player sort of ego vibe about them. I subscribe to him. Hashtag Harry, because he seems like a genuinely nice guy. Fuji. And I'm still subbed to Nepemfez, but I'm going to unsub soon because he gets on my nerves. He's just bland. Like, So for me, like, the FIFA guys are all pretty much one and the same. It says a lot when you have to make convoluted game formats like squad builder showdowns to get content out there. You have to convolute Ultimate Team so bad that it's not really even Ultimate Team anymore in order to get views on content. It says a lot about the state of FIFA, really. I did hear about Athlete VG, Luke. Athlete's a good friend of mine. We go way back. It's funny because after I criticized him in that video in 2012 I did on my old channel, I was on his podcast a couple of times, the Finish Line podcast, and we got to the point where we're pretty good friends. And he's even closer friends with Ryan King, who obviously is 1/3 of the podcast. So we've talked about the possibility of having Athlete on the podcast one day. So don't sleep on that. There's a possibility. I think he's also said he's offered we can crash at his house if I ever end up at the Indy 500, which could be fun. So Athlete's a good pal. A lot of respect for him. A great guy. Yeah, a lot of gaming communities like that. To be fair, Kuba, I'm only speaking for the ones that I know about. I don't know if any other communities are like that on YouTube, whether it's just FIFA or F1 or other games in general. I know the NBA is definitely like that now, where it used to be a lot about gameplay. It's now more about hot takes. Like, I used to be subscribed to Mike Kazemba, and Kazemba used to be a genuinely brilliant NBA YouTuber until he started talking about hot takes all the time, like why Fon Maker will be the next great NBA player, or why this was a smart trade for the Bulls to get Jimmy Butler. It's that same like hot takey, opinion-based content that drove me off of him. Chris Smooth was another one. Remember when Chris Smooth was a great gaming YouTube and ended up just becoming news guy now? Because he can use NBA footage. But, you know. Nightscapes. F1 fan. I've not reached out to any of those dudes. I think Niran probably would if I asked him to come on the podcast at one point. Niran's a great guy. Again, I consider him a friend. We've had many a good conversation. I get along well with him. Like, I'd have no bones to having Niran on the podcast. Same with Eterno. I reckon Joe's a really good guy. Arav, he's got his own thing, and he's got the Pit Lane podcast, and he gets fucking tens of thousands of views with his boys Tom and Cal. And again, they're good guys, Tom and Cal. So again, I wish them all the best. I don't follow Tom anymore, but Tom was always a nice kid. Cal, again, very, very nice guy. So again, I wish him all the best. But I don't really want that conflict of interest, because I consider that show a competitor, and they're based on YouTube, and they're going to have like 150,000 times the head start that I've got, because they're on YouTube, and he's got 120, 130,000 subs. We just don't have that. So naturally, it's going to cause some problems. But if Naran ever wanted to come on the podcast and he asked me, I'd absolutely say yes. Checking some Twitter real quick. Hassan now have 29 points, which is more than they had throughout the entirety of 2016. So Hassan have already matched their 2016 point total this season. So good for them. Pardon me. I've never watched her in F1 fan. Nightscapes videos, Urban Explorer guy. Some of these are insane. Never watched him. Might check him out. Thanks, Len. We'll go for about another half hour. So, send me your questions. Nearly 30 of you watching. Jesus, that's kind of bonkers. I could vent about YouTube more if I really wanted to, but I did that last Hangout. But I am finding it kind of funny that as time goes on, I'm drifting away from that older F1 community of guys that, were in their primes about 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm actually drifting away from a lot of the close, race car Twitter people as well, funnily enough. Kind of just standing out on my own 2 feet a bit more now, and I like it that way. It's fun. Roger Federer is an alien. Discuss. Yes, it absolutely is an alien. I still can't believe that Roger Federer is that good at 36 years old. Would you rather watch a single full NASCAR race again or stop watching IndyCar forever? Give me the NASCAR race. I don't hate NASCAR. I just find it boring. That's all it is. It's I don't like. I have maximum respect for NASCAR drivers. What they do is fucking hard. On any level, it is difficult, and I don't envy what they have to do to get ahead of themselves out there. But I also think that their sport is largely boring, and I think it has a race problem. I think it has too many ties to the South. I think it's got too much ties to Donald Trump, and I think it's got too many ties to things like the Confederate flag and, its nature of race, which is a shame because they've actually been one of the most inclusive forms of motorsport in recent years, with Daniel Suarez getting into NASCAR and other people of color being involved in the sport, and women as well, like Ryan Blaney's crew chief is a woman. Which is really, really cool. But I doesn't watching NASCAR just doesn't sit right with me. And I sat through 4 hours of Daytona and it wasn't fun at all. Thoughts on the Lukaku signing? It's interesting. £90 million is a lot of fucking money. And I know that there's more TV money in the game now, so naturally teams are going to spend even more. £90 million is a lot of money. And if anything, I've been kind of annoyed because I know a few folks that support Everton and they've done nothing but basically try and send salt my way because we signed Lukaku. And it's oh, well, his first touch is terrible, and, he'll give up in certain games. Listen, he's the second best pure scorer in the league. He had 24 goals last season for Everton, and he's going to a better overall team. Proven goals in the Premier League is priceless. For all the talk about how this is one of the most stacked Premier League seasons ever last year, only 2 guys had 20 goals or more. And I think that was Lukaku and Harry Kane. And Kane had 29. Lukaku, I think, had 24, 25, something like that. He was really good. I'd rather we spend 90 million on the proven article in this league than gamble and spend 50 million on Lacazette, who we don't know how he's going to acclimatise to English play. So for me, I'd rather we drop the extra change and make sure we get a sure thing in Lukaku. But, the shit about, his first touches, and all that, and he's when he gives up, United fans going to start booing him. I don't give a shit, okay? Let me be excited about signing, because we needed a franchise striker, period. Zlatan is gone, and Rooney is washed, and I don't want to play Marcus Rashford for 60 games a year because he's our only number 9 now. I don't want Rashford to be another Wayne Rooney where we've played him so much we've burnt him out by 29. Because that's happened to a lot of English dudes in football. Rooney, Owen, Robbie Fowler. I'm sure there's more examples, but guys that we've played them from the time they were teenagers, and the Premier League is one of the most physically demanding leagues in the world, in the sense of play 38 league games. There's two domestic cup trophies that are going to require maybe 10 to 20 games, including replays and whatnot. Champions League is going to be at least another 6 games, maybe more if you make the knockout stages. And again, they're 2-leg matches as well, so there's going to be a lot of midweek games thrown in there as well. A lot of times you could be playing 3 times in 8 days. I don't want Rashford playing 60-plus games. So we needed a franchise striker, and I'm glad we've got one that I know is a proven goal scorer. So, and it's nice to be excited over making a big marquee signing. That's nice. And it annoys when people try to ruin that feeling for me. But I think he's a great, great signing. I really do. And I look forward to seeing him perform in red. If they bring back Ibra in January, if he's fully fit, then why not? Because Ibra is still a very valuable player to have in a squad. I'm okay with that. But we need at least one marquee striker for the future. He's 24, Lukaku. And, you know, you have to play a premium for that sort of, not only a top 3 striker in the league, but also someone who's still young. Like, he's 24. All the other marquee strikers I could think of are older, except for Harry Kane. And, you know, Aguero's 28, I think now. Like, Sanchez is 28. You know, Aubameyang's 28. You know, those guys that are in their prime right now. Like, Alvaro Morata's the only other young striker I can think of that could still hit his prime. But you've got to pay over the top. That's today's market. That's today's game. And you know what? If there's no reason why he can't improve his first touch or be more motivated he's gone to a bigger club. So, you know, let's wait and see how this goes rather than saying, oh, well, you know his first touch is bad, right? Or, oh, you know, sometimes he doesn't put in 100% work rate, right? And I'm like, shut the fuck up and let me be excited. You know? But yeah, that's what I thought about. F1 commentary dream team. I would say, who was a good play-by-play guy? We've not had very many good play-by-play guys. Of the guys that are out there, probably like Lee Diffie from IndyCar. I'd probably have Lee Diffie and maybe Dario Franchitti next to him. That would be a pretty cool commentary box. I agree with you, Len, that Lacazette for 50 mil could be a great signing if you keep Sanchez. If that's going to be the focal point of your entire offense, it could be a problem. Like, because there's all the talk that Sanchez is going to go to Man City for maybe 80 million next week. Like, if you had Lacazette in a support role to Sanchez, and I think that'd be a tremendous signing. But if that's going to be your offense, that's going to be your main guy, then I'm not so sure. Great question, Richard. How would you rate Rooney's time at United? I said this on Twitter the other day that I think Wayne Rooney is the Shaquille O'Neal of footballers, in the sense of, like, Shaq by anyone's measure is probably a top 12 to 15 basketball player of all time. He was the most dominant center the game had ever seen when he was playing basketball. He was 7'1", 320 pounds. Nobody could stop him in the post. He was unguardable at times, and he won 4 championships. He, won Finals MVP. He won a scoring title despite not having a free throw game and not being a 3-point shooter, which says a lot about the quality of Shaq and his scoring. At one point he was averaging like 31 and 13 a night. He was an incredible player. And I always look at Shaq and I think he could have been even better. Probably got a little bit too big. Probably lost a bit of motivation after 2006. You know, probably got too much too soon in terms of being a big media personality. You know, letting Orlando distract him a little bit. And then when it was of the Lakers, he fell out with Kobe and Phil Jackson, and it didn't quite work out where that's concerned. I think Shaq could have been even better. And I think Wayne Rooney, the most terrifying thing about Rooney is I think he could have been even better than what he actually was. I think if he looked after himself a little bit better, I think if he wasn't made to be an every game starter when we got him, because we still had Ruud van Nistelrooy back then. Like we had Ruud back then. I think we still had Solskjaer at that point as well. We still had quality players in our team. But Rooney was an every game starter from the time he was 18 years of age. And that's like I said before, there was a lot of miles on Rooney's body clock by the time we got to like maybe 2013 or 14, where it was clear his star power had faded. And he wasn't the same dude anymore. And it's a shame because I think Rooney played too much football. I think he's basically he's a 30-year-old in a 35-year-old's body. I think there's too much mileage on the clock with Rooney for him to still be an effective every game starter. And what is Everton going to do with him now with Ross Barkley, given he's going to be playing in Barkley's position? That's going to be a problem. But Rooney is an unbelievable player, one of the best players the Premier League has ever seen, like top 5 to 10 easily in the all-time Premier League discussion. So, like, since 91, he's in the top 5 for me as a great scorer, tremendous athlete, and a guy that could win you games on his own at his very best. But I think the thing that will always annoy me about him is that I think he could have been even better. I really do. I think he could have legitimately been the best player on the planet, and he was never that. And that was even before Ronaldo became a phenomenon, before Messi, you know, took the world by storm, before even Kaká was like an amazing player. Like, you forget, Kaká was the last man to win a Ballon d'Or that wasn't Ronaldinho, that wasn't Ronaldo or Messi. Like, Kaká won it in 2007. So just when Rooney was getting into his peak, and yeah, I'm happy for him. I'm delighted for him. I'm very proud that we had him in red for a little while. But it's easy to forget. One, he tried to leave us twice, and I think he could have been even better. But he is still a great servant for us, and I wish him the best at Everton. I really do. Motorsport bucket list. I'm probably doing Le Mans next year. I think I'm going to be doing Le Mans in 2018 for sure. I think I don't know if many people know Hazel Southwood on Twitter, but it was her idea for me to start doing more motorsport shit. So I'm probably doing Le Mans next year. That's always been on the bucket list. I've always wanted to do Le Mans. I'm kind of gutted that there's no Audi anymore in the WEC, but I've always wanted to do Le Mans, and that is definitely going to be a thing. Indy 500 has always been on the bucket list as well. One day I will do Indy, but I want the circumstances for it to happen to be better. There's a long story as to why I probably won't be doing it anytime soon, but one day I will talk about it more at length. But you know, the time now's not the right time. But I will do the Indy 500 one day for sure. But it'll be on my own terms. That's about it, really. There's not like I'm not actually all that keen on a Formula One race. Like maybe Monza. That might be about it. Like I could do Monza relatively easily, and I think that could actually be pretty cool. But maybe Monza, maybe Spa. The Spa's pretty cheap actually, or Hungary, but I'm not massively bucket list chasing right now on the sound of it. To to be honest. But race circuits, yeah, Monza, Spa, and Indianapolis, I would say, Tom Warren. I know a good friend of mine, Cuba. I know Catherine, a good friend of mine, is making the trip down there later this year. I'm jealous of her massively because Monza, like Monza, I don't like as a track, but as a spectacle, it seems like the kind of thing you have to do at least once. Like, I'm not a big fan of Monza being on the calendar, but if it's going to be on here, you might as well go and see it, right? Pardon me. But yeah, we'll always have the bicycle kick against City. Very true, Vic. Very true. I'm more of a fan of the one-touch strike against Newcastle myself, but the bicycle kick against City was a bit special. That 2008 United team that had Rooney playing like left wing behind like Tevez, Berbatov, and Ronaldo. Those were the days. That was like the best United team I've ever seen. The 2008 one was, whew, that was a big one. I think we'll do another half hour as well, by the way. I think we'll go to 7:30. Looks like Sigurdsson's going to Everton as well, by the way, football-wise. Just checking my phone real quick, guys. Give me a minute. Johnson's messaging me as we speak on my WhatsApp. Yes, I know you're watching, Adam. But yeah. Greatest F1 upset you've witnessed? Well, obvious. Sebastian Vettel, Monza 2008. Like, Vettel was good, but nobody thought it was ever good. Like, when was the last time like a legitimate like 5th or 6th best car in the field won a Grand Prix? Like, actually won a Grand Prix from pole position. That is like the biggest upset in F1 of the modern age. Maybe Braun in 2009, because everybody thought Braun was looking for showcase laps when they were testing. They looked fast in testing, but nobody really bought it until they went to Australia. And then when Australia came around, I was like, oh my God, they're actually that quick. Jenson Button, like, where did this come from? But between those two, I think either Vettel at Monza in 08 or Braun in Australia 2009. Maybe Maldonado to a degree as well. But Maldonado, I think, already had flashes of speed in him that was shown already. And he was a GP2 champion. Like Pastor being good would have been a lot more likely than Pastor being bad going into 2012. At least in my opinion. Just checking the chat real quick. I've never actually seen that Monza 08 qualifying. I'll have to go find that at some point, Vic. But yeah. To answer earlier questions, I do genuinely want to get out and do more sports stuff in general. Like, I did British Superbikes again earlier this year when I did the opening round at the Indy circuit. So watching Luke Mossey get his first double victories in BSB. which was a good day out with Johnson. I really enjoyed it. That was fun, and I'd love to do Moto. I'd like to mention I would love to do MotoGP at Silverstone. I think that Silverstone's one of the best tracks they have on the calendar every year. It's really, really cool. They have Moto 3 on last, which is interesting enough as well, saving the best event till last, if you ask me. And apparently, like the tickets are pretty cheap, like 35 quid for a general admission race day ticket. It's actually pretty cheap. It's just a bastard to get to, more than anything else. Worst driver in F1 I've seen. Probably Narain Carter-Kayan. Bourdais. Imagine if Bourdais and Vettel both went to Red Bull. Oh boy, that could have been fun. Firecrester, what is your favorite piece of F1 merchandise that you have? 1 second. Bless me. But yeah, like, it's probably this. I got this for my birthday last year. It's Sebastian Vettel. It's a 1-2 replica of his 2015 helmet, his first season he was in F1. Cost me a lot of money, funnily enough, but it's funny. It's actually worth about twice as much now as it was when I got it, because they're very collectible, these. For those guys that haven't seen it before, I keep my F1 mini helmets up here on top of my wardrobe. So I've got like a collection of them. Like the Jensen bottom one was the last one I got. But yeah, the Vettel 2015 Ferrari one's probably my favorite. So for me, I would probably take that over all the other ones. What's the better meme? The Circuit of Wales or Sky broadcasters asking for blue flags to be removed? Was Sky F1 really asking to remove like blue flags? Like, how stupid can you be? Like, one of the few things I genuinely dislike about IndyCar is that blue flags are optional and not mandatory. Bringing that to F1 would be stupid. Because of how hard these cars are to pass most of the time. Like, you think fuckery is bad now and get him out of the way? It's going to be even worse if you just say, oh, well, you know, let's get rid of blue flags because it had an impact on the outcome, which was purely coincidental. That's for that every weekend. I don't watch Sky F1 that much, Evan. Jesus. It's probably for the best. Yeah, Crofty early on in the season. Like, even NASCAR has blue flags, which is a very good point. Best F1 overtake I can remember. Probably Mark Webber overtaking Fernando Alonso at Radillon at Spa. I think that was 2011 or 12. But like Webber going pretty much side by side with Alonso up Radillon through Eau Rouge. That was ballsy. There's been some good ones I can remember. I know Felipe Massa's at Singapore in 2012 on Bruno Senna was pretty sick. Vettel putting 2 wheels on the grass round Curva Grande on Fernando Alonso was Monza 2011 was pretty special. So there's a few in there that I can think of that were really, really up there. But I probably would say Fernando at Silverstone was probably at Spa was probably the one for me. Oh, you like Raikkonen and Schumacher one more. Fair enough. Luke Higgins says, where do you get your mini F1 helmets? I've worn for 1 or 2 years. Different places. There is a really great Facebook group called F1 half scale model. Actually, I'll tell you the name. I'll tell you the exact name of it. It's on my Facebook account now. Let me have a quick look. Yeah, it's called Half Scale F1 Helmet Collectors Group. On Facebook, there's a whole market. There's guys selling them, buying them on there. It's a great community of about 600 folks. Tell Justin I sent you. He's a really, really nice guy. He'll let you in, no problem. It's a great group for buying and selling. It's on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, CK Models is a pretty good place. eBay is actually not a bad place every once in a while. Like, you can get them on eBay if you just type in F1 1 to 2 scale or half scale helmet. You can look for those up there. So yeah, if you do your homework, you can get a pretty good deal on some of these. Like, don't get me wrong though, some of those helmets ain't cheap. This was 100 quid when I got it. Like, it's now probably worth about 180. I don't know if you saw it up there, but the pink Jensen button one, that was 205 quid. They ain't cheap by any measure. But if you're hardcore and you're into it, and you know, they are very, they are lovely things to display. They really are. They're beautiful pieces. So if you're into UF1 and you've got a bit of money to burn, go for it. There's some pretty cheap ones out there if you know where to look. But yeah, let's have a look here. Any wrecks in F1 that genuinely scared or made you cringe? Oh God, let me think. It was some like Robert Kubica at Canada 2007 was bad. I think it was Rubens Barrichello when he was flying in Australia was a pretty bad one. Fernando Alonso at Australia last season was bad. I mean, seeing him drive over Gutierrez's rear wing at 190 miles an hour was terrifying. So there's 3 right there that I can think of right away off the top of my head. Those are pretty bad, to say the least. Mark Webber as well, Valencia, I think in 2010, where he drives over Heikki Kovalainen's rear wing and he flies into the wall at 170 mph. That was pretty bad as well. How much was your gold Schumacher one? Vic, my gold Schumacher was, I want to say 160. I think it was 168, something like that. I think it was 168, which is amazing because they Schuberth that made the helmet have released another batch and they're going for like 80 quid now. It is what it is. Sometimes you lose money because you get reproductions. That's how any collection industry works. Somebody Snapchatting me. Biggest busts? Sergio Perez at McLaren. That's a big one. Although, to be fair, he seems to have actually... His stock's now probably better after he's left than when he was before it, when he was at Sauber. But the one that McLaren just did not work out at all. Whew. That was ugly. Checking my phone real quick. Right. Oh, God, Heikki Kovalainen was a good point. Heikki, I feel bad for Heikki in the sense of he joined the team with Lewis Hamilton on it. That was never going to go down well. It's like you won 1 Grand Prix in his 1 season he was at McLaren. No, it wasn't. No, was it 2? Didn't he do 2 seasons at McLaren? 08 and 09? I think he did 08 and 09 because I think Jensen Button joined in 2010. I think he did 2 seasons. But he only won 1 race. think it was Hungary 09, I want to say. Like, welcome to the one-win club. It's a very elusive club of Max Verstappen, Pastor Maldonado, and Olivier Panis. Of dudes that won just the one Grand Prix in their careers. Yeah, he did 2 years. Thought so. Ugh. Tired. Hungry 081, my bad. That was, yeah, I remember that was the one where Massa's engine blew up. But didn't his engine blow like 2 laps from the end or something? And like Massa would have won that race and probably have won the 08 title that year. Poor Felipe. Man just could not catch a break. Yeah, that's the one. Saki only won a single race at McLaren, and that was because somebody else got unlucky. Yeah, poor Heike. I mean, let's be real here. The way McLaren was set up, they were never going to get somebody back on the level of Fernando Alonso. They basically booted out Nando for 40 cents on the dollar and got Heikki Kovalainen, who was like promising at Renault beforehand. So it was like, okay, we got Heikki. Like, how bad could this be? And it's like, oh no, we're going to make him a number 2 because Lewis Hamilton's going to get all the wins. I'm pretty sure Lewis Hamilton won 6 times that year. And that was in a year where both Raikkonen and Massa were competitive. Take care, Luke. Am I the only one who thinks Lewis is really hit or miss as a driver? Hard to say, B. I think the funny thing about Lewis Hamilton to me is that I think he's a lot more conservative now than he used to be. I think Hamilton was actually more aggressive when he was younger. Like, if you want to see an example of a guy who's now more aggressive than he used to be, Sebastian Vettel. Like, Vettel is now actually taking more risks with his passes to try and get past people in this era. Have you noticed, like, the pass on Ricciardo in China? For example, like, the guy that seems to be making all the critical passes right now has been Sebastian Vettel. Like, even Nico Rosberg in Abu Dhabi had that brilliant dive bomb on Max Verstappen that pretty much won him the title. So when you weigh it up like that, I don't think Hamilton is hit or miss. I mean, it helps when you're driving what's been the best car in Formula One for 4 years now. And, you know, he's won, God, what was it? 9, 10. I mean, we won once in 2013. He won 10 in 2014, 11 in 2015. He won 10 again in 2016. So what? He's already won 32 Grand Prix for Mercedes. Like, I think that's like more than Fernando Alonso's entire win count for his career, and Hamilton's done it in 4 years with one team. So, actually, no, take that back. It's more than 32 because he's won 3 so far this year. So it's like 35 wins for Mercedes. This is just bonkers. But no, I don't think Hamilton is hit and miss. He's a benefiter of circumstance more than anything else. Oh God, favorite Ferrari Vettel moment debate in the chat here. The Monaco Tiffany opinion was pretty hilarious. I can't lie. Like, Hamilton was grumpy as all hell because because he fucked up and made the pit stop strategy under the safety car, which didn't work. So he dropped from like first to third, and like Rosberg was like, "Well, I'm just going to win this race then." Vettel was like, "Oh, I'll take the second." It's like that's nice. And Hamilton was all grumpy as all hell, and he gets out of the car and he goes, "I'm happy." Yeah. Oh, Hungary was pretty great. Hungary was pretty great, where he dedicates the win to Jules Bianchi and says, Jules, this would have been your car one day. That was very touching. Malaysia will always stand out to me. The first win and how he did it, and the fact that it was the first time really a Mercs had been beaten on merit in the hybrid era. Like, that gave us all a little bit of hope for a minute there, and I think that was great. And to be fair, Dr. B, in response to your latest comment, like, he's had one bad season in his F1 career, really. Even Vettel had 2014, and that was, even despite the bad luck, a substandard year for Seb. A year he didn't even win a Grand Prix. And Ricciardo won 3. It didn't exactly help. But at least from where I'm sitting, like, Hamilton's only had the really one bad year. 2009 was a crapshoot where Brawn was dominant. It didn't matter. 2010, he was competitive and took the title fight to the last day, had a chance of winning, won multiple races. 2011, okay, that was the meltdown year with Felipe Massa. 2012, he probably should have been at worst a contender because he lost 75 points from race-leading positions. He had a suspension failure at Singapore. He had the engine failure in Abu Dhabi when he was leading that race, and he was taken out by Hulkenberg in Brazil. He was winning in all 3 of those races, and he was taken out by something outside of his control. Like, Hamilton should have at worst been a contender in 2012. 13, won a Grand Prix, was better than Rosberg, was decent finisher overall. 14, world champ. 15, world champ. 16, narrowly beaten by Rosberg. Like, he's only really had one bad season by any measure, so... Good shout, though, about Firecrest and Russia 20. That was a good one. All the girls are waiting for you. Room 703. Oh, 2012. Hulkenberg could have had a podium that day. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Brazil 2012, he was so fast that weekend and just so confident in the wet as well. He was fighting with the McLarens all race long. Just made one mistake too many, and he finished in 6th, and he got the drive-through for taking Hamilton out. And it's a shame because Hulkenberg was really fast that day. Could have been a win for him, let alone a podium finish. Yeah, easily Hulkenberg could have won that race. Okay, folks, last call for questions. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to get them in. Send your questions in, and I will do my best to answer them. Because I'm hungry and I want my dinner. Right. 2018 first podium? Maybe. Not a bad shout. Is Renault making a mistake by keeping Palmer? See, I'm not one of those guys that says Palmer is a terrible driver. I genuinely don't think that. I think it's more a case that Hülkenberg is so much better than him that it makes Palmer maybe look a little bit worse than he actually is, which is a shame because I think Palmer is a decent driver. I just think he's in the wrong team. I think he's in the wrong setup, and he's always going to look bad with Hülkenberg right next to him. And there's no guarantee that Sergei Sorokin or Oliver Rowland would automatically be better than him in the same car. So that's the gamble you take when you gamble on younger drivers like this. Palmer has been relatively disappointing. It's not totally been on him. I think Renault has been very unreliable at times, and they've not made it any easier for him. But I also think that he's not particularly special, and I think that he's almost destined to fail with Hülkenberg as his teammate. So, you know, I think it's too quick to drop a GP2 world champion in his second season. Other questions? F2 drivers that should be in F1 next year. Charles Leclerc needs to be in Formula One right now, but I fear Charles Leclerc might be in a bit of a pickle because is any F1 team going to move another guy out for Leclerc? Because Kevin Magnussen's been pretty darn good for Haas this year. Like, that would be the most obvious spots because Sauber hasn't got Ferrari affiliation anymore. They're going to be powered by Honda next year. So you might get Matsushita in F1 next year for Sauber. Who knows? But, like, Haas is the most logical spot. Unless they get rid of Raikkonen and they can push Grosjean up to the senior team and then Haas can take Leclerc or maybe Giovinazzi. Like, I struggle to see where Leclerc ends up. I really do. Because it's like, well, who's going to dump a guy for Leclerc? And what makes it worse is because of the shitty champions rule, if Leclerc doesn't get a seat, he's doing nothing for a year. He gets to go to Japan and drive in Super Formula or something. Ronaldo's not coming back, Vic. Ronaldo only kicked up a stink to base... You know what it is? Ronaldo put in a transfer request and basically kicked up a Barney to stop people from talking about the fact he didn't pay his taxes. Ronaldo's not an idiot. Like, he's a 31, 32-year-old man with a lot of smart people on his team. They probably just told him, listen, we know you've not paid enough taxes. We'll wait for the court trial, kick up a stink about wanting to leave until after the Confederations Cup, and when the heat dies down, you know, we'll bump up your contract again, and we'll keep you happy for another couple of years. It's vintage Ronaldo. He's not going to go anywhere. Why would he leave one of the best football teams ever? Like, that's a dynasty, Real Madrid right there. They've won 3 of the last 4 Champions Leagues. And Ronaldo is going to win his 5th Ballon d'Or, and he'll be arguably the greatest player ever. With 3 Champions League winners' medals to his name. Like, actually, no, 4, because he won one with United as well. So Ronnie's now won 4 Champions League titles with 2 different teams in 2 different leagues. Why would he leave Real Madrid? He hasn't got a reason to. I would love to see a Castro Neves Alonso loser shaves their hair match. That'd be great. Verdict on Stoffel. I was expecting a lot more from him. Stoffel's not bad. Stoffel's not bad, but he's in a shit team. He's in an unreliable team that's not going to show off his true potential. It's as simple as that. And it doesn't help when you've got one of the 4 best drivers in F1 as your teammate. That's always going to make you look silly because it's Fernando friggin' Alonso. What chance have you got to look good when Fernando is in the same team as you? Like, Stoffel is another one of those guys that's bound to look worse than he is because his situation is a lose-lose. He's in a shit car with a fucking good teammate. It's a shame because he's had flashes of brilliance. Like Monaco, he looked really good until his car died on him. But, you know, same deal. Like, Stoffel pretty much gets a pass for his rookie year because the car is shit. One second. Let's have a look here. Yeah, completely agree. I remember when Stoffel was still driving for Formula Sim racing. Stoffel, a genuine sim guy, ends up in Formula One. There is hope for us all. Thanks for watching, JPM. Glad you appreciated the hangout. Really appreciate that. I always try to do more of these when I can afford to. It's hard because I'm still juggling a job and whatnot. But the good news is I'm no longer working any of those insane 13-hour shifts at my job anymore. I changed my contract around where I'm no longer working 4 days when I'm working 5 days, but I'll only be doing like more shifts like 9 till 5 or 1:40 till 10 as opposed to like 8:45 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night and I'm doing 13-hour shifts. That's not going to happen anymore. So I trade off a day of holiday, but at the same time, my shifts mean I'll get my evenings back and I'll be able to work on more content. So hopefully it's a worthwhile trade-off in that sense. Definitely in the conversation, Dr. B. Catherine Negg's doing a fantastic job in IMSA right now. Doesn't help that Simone is stuck in Aussie supercars and isn't particularly good right now. And it's a shame because I fucking love Simona. Like, amazing driver, even more amazing girl, but in the wrong division by a mile. She should have been in Formula E still, but with a better Andretti team because I look at Andretti and I think, is it really that much better with Da Costa in there? Like, he was better when he was with Team Aguri the year before. So I love Simona. But, yeah. I have to wait and see. Which team will every mainstream YouTuber drive for in career mode next year? Toro Rosso. Because it's red, blue, and it looks pretty. Or maybe McLaren if they like the orange. But I think it'll either be McLaren or Toro Rosso. Definitely one of those two. 5 minutes, guys. Best looking female racer? Either Simona or probably Sophia Flores. But I think she's a bit young for me at this point. I've always been a fan of Simona in every sense of the word. But I did see Sophia's on board. That was ridiculous. And the fact she got fined 20 grand for it is just everything wrong about junior motorsport. That someone can rightly point out a very dangerous situation on a racing circuit, but then gets fined 20,000 euros for breaching video regulations. Shit like this needs to be seen so people can do something about it. And look at the attention it's brought to the incident. That alone is worth 20,000 euros because Sophia was lucky that she didn't drive straight into the side of a van. It's ridiculous on every level. Yeah, Catherine Legg is mad cute. Absolutely. Yeah, man. Nothing wrong with an older girl. Evan, I still think we're years away from a female Formula One driver on merit. We need to get participation up in order to start thinking about getting one that's good enough to get into F1. Like, the talent is there. It's obviously there. The issue is that we haven't got enough women taking part in motorsport to have enough of a pool in there to get someone to the top level. Ryan King had a great idea, and that was to have a female-only Formula 4 series. Have a female-only Formula 4 series and have the winner get a guaranteed seat in European Formula 3 and wait maybe 10 years. See how that works out. Give women a nice entry-level motorsport event to take part in, and then we can see if any talent comes out once they get into the big stages. But I think the issue is not talent. I think it's participation, because the women that are at the top level, like Catherine Legg, like Sophia Flores, like Christina Nielsen, like Simona, they've been guys that have dabbled in F1 or have gotten close to F1 drives. Danica Patrick's another one who was great in IndyCar for a while. You know, they're all talented dudes. It's just a matter of the fact that, you know, we need more participation at that sort of level to make it really work. Favorite energy drink? Monster, which is annoying because I don't like Red Bull, but Monster. Their Doctor energy drink is pretty darn good. Forgotten the name myself, Evan. I'm sorry about that. Of the track at NASCAR to give you a complimentary can of NASCAR. Thanks for coming to the NASCAR Monster Energy Series. Here, have a free can of Monster. Great. Secret Hamilton fan. No, I just like Monster. Sue me. But, guys, I think we'll call it a day on this one. Thanks, everybody, for sticking around and watching. I do really appreciate it. I'll be recording the next Motorsport 101 probably on Tuesday. So you can look forward to that later. And obviously, we'll talk all the shit from Austria and the Iowa Corn 300 in IndyCar, which starts at 10 o'clock tonight. Probably a little bit of IMSA thrown in there as well. Given there's been a massive wreck in that one as well. So stick around for that one. We'll probably talk about that on the podcast later this week. And, of course, Bike Live, most likely either Friday or Saturday, breaking down all the World Bike talk from Laguna Seca. So until all of that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Sayonara.